Well, good morning everyone and welcome to the show. Today we have a Toyota
Tacoma.
Thank you. It's a 2018. You guys might recognize this one. It's been in the show before. We put the full MX series speakers in it with some roadkill and fast rings. Today we're going to do part 2 of 3, as it turns out. We're going to go ahead and put this guy in. The Stinger Elev8 radio. For those of you that aren't familiar with this, it is a floating screen style radio. We just did a full review on it if you want to check that out and see if it's something you might be interested in. It's got CarPlay, which is a big feature that he's interested in, plus he kind of digs the screen. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and pull this guy out and put it in its place. First thing up though is getting this dash part so we can figure out what pieces we're going to need. The reason why is this is a newer vehicle and not all the parts are listed on the website that we're gonna need. We've checked around so we have a pretty good idea, but we just want to make sure.
Right.
Let's get this thing apart. So if you've never taken one of these dashes apart and you want to know how to do it, the kit that you buy for the car should have instructions how to do it.
Perfect.
So for this, pick a corner, give it a tugging. And what you'll see on the back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 clips are holding this thing in place. I'll go ahead and set it aside. Now behind here we have 4 10mm bolts holding it in place. Go ahead and pull it out. As you can see, it does come out of the dash pretty far. All right, in the middle here, you have the add-on tuner. That's this on the bottom for Sirius XM. Don't remove those. We do have a ton of other cables to choose from. This gray one here is gonna be the USB. This is our satellite. This is our FM, the big white one here. This is Sirius XM. Okay. We have the standard 1761 style harness here. Then we have the auxiliary harness and then our backup harness. And on one of these is gonna be the steering wheel controls. All right, let's go find some parts for this. So we went next door, we went and we found as many pieces as we could to do this install. First off, the kit we have is the BK-TOYK 9714. Next, the harness is just a regular BHA 1761. This is the same harness that Toyota has been using for years and years and years. It's got all the standard colors on it. Purple is passenger rear, green is driver's rear. That's on harness 2. On harness 1, we have gray, which is passenger front, white is driver's front. Got black ground, red accessory, yellow constant 12 volts, orange is illumination, and then this is the fun one. This is the blue, and they do this loop on the best kits. One is amplifier, and the other one is amplified antenna. My guess is we're not gonna need either one of those because we have the BAA44, which is the antenna adapter / turn on for the amplified antenna. Once we get into the car though, we'll double check that. Then we also have the Cam 12. This is gonna allow us to retain the factory backup camera. Now the factory backup camera does use a 6-volt trigger, so we are going to use a volt 3.9, which is a 3, 5, 6, and 9-volt output to power up the backup camera. It has a little switch here and you just select what voltage you want. To retain the USB, we're gonna use the USB TY1, which has this square end. The only thing I couldn't find an adapter for is the GPS antenna it comes with. None of the ones that they make have an end like this that'll plug into the Elev8. However, where the factory antenna is mounted, it's going to be easy enough for us to relocate this antenna in that spot. Now, one of the features on the Elev8 is it has steering wheel controls built into it if you have the older style 3-wire resistive type steering wheel. Toyotas typically have those, so we're hoping we'll be able to just tie into that and retain those features. Now let's go ahead and see if these harnesses that we have are the ones we need. USB plugs right in, our antenna is good, and it has the trigger wire on the other side, so we're definitely going to need to hook that up. Rear speaker, front speaker and main power, we just want to check. And those 2 blue wires are missing out of the harness. We'll go ahead and depin those out of there, but we want to unplug this. We don't want to leave it plugged in right now because the ends have power. We don't want it to accidentally touch, so we'll set that aside. Now there's 2 big white harnesses. One is a 28 and the other one is, I believe, a 24. 24 is going to be for this 12, and that is going to have our backup camera on it. Now the reason why I brought that up is that this harness here is where our steering wheel control wires are. There's these 3 wires right here, the blue, the yellow, and the purple. Those are our steering wheel wires, so we're going to tap into those. How we found those is PAC has an app for steering wheel control. You can download it on the App Store or the Google Play Store, and it's the program in their steering wheel control control interfaces such as the CP2 and the CP5, which is what we'll be using if this doesn't work. In there, it gives you a full breakout of what wires you're gonna need and where they're located. So now that we have all the harnesses that we know we need are gonna work, I'm gonna go ahead and hop over to the bench and get those taken care of. Fernando's gonna go ahead and clean up the main wiring harness here. It has this garden hose type stuff on it. It takes up a lot of room. So what we like to do is go ahead and remove this stuff out of the way and then re-tape it up so that it's a lot thinner and a lot easier to work with. The GPS antenna is mounted right here, so we'll go ahead and get that out of place. The factory USB is down here, but we're good. We don't need to worry about that. Now the Elev8 does have 2 USB inputs, so we'll go ahead and drop a second one into the glove box. We're not going to retain the aux input because he's an iPhone user and he's not real worried about that. Let's go ahead and get working on this. Now inside the Elev8 there is a box of connectors. You have the Bluetooth mic, which I'll go ahead and hand over to Fernando. You have the Sirius XM cable here. This has 3 extra wires on it that are not going to be used. What we like to do is go ahead and plug these in anyways, because if he ever decides to have Sirius XM, we won't have to go looking for the cable itself. The Elev8 will do up to 4 cameras, a reverse plus 3 others. This harness here is for that. On this harness you have cameras 1 through 3. You have a brown, white, and orange trigger wire that will trigger the camera. To trigger the camera, you just need something that pulses, like a turn signal or an on-off switch. It will stay on for 3 seconds. So if you do connect it to your turn signals, once you flick it on and it starts pulsing, the camera will turn on, and when you flick it off, it'll go ahead and turn off. The camera will not pulse. It has a vehicle speed sense wire input, which is the blue one here, and it has these green wires here with this extra little white clip with expansion. Now we're not going to be doing any of these cameras today. We might be doing them later, so there again, we'll plug them in so he'll have them. Now there's 2 1.5 foot cables here, a blue one and this black guy here. These are the connectors that go between the brain module and the display screen. And these you can actually buy a 5-foot set. So if you're going to do something where you're putting the screen in the dash and you need to mount the brain box somewhere else, 5 extra feet. We have this little guy here that has 2 aux style inputs on it. One of them is for the IR add-on remote control, and the other one is for the steering wheel controls. Now you have this big guy here, which is all the RCAs. Let's break them up into pairs so that it makes a little bit more sense. First up, we have the blue, we have this gray one here, and then we have this black guy here. Red is right, white is left. These are mono that you can go off to your amplifiers. The gray one is rear, the black one with the white and red ends is for front, and the blue is for subwoofer. Next up, we have the rear entertainment section, which is this dual yellow RCA here, along with this black with white and red ends that say line out. This is for your rear seat entertainment. Now the reason why it has 2 yellow ends on it, it has 2 mirrored outputs to go to like headrest monitors or dual screens. Along with the AV output, if you grab the yellow connector here, along with the leftover white and red, these are your AV inputs. So you can feed in an auxiliary if you wanted to, both video and audio. They did want to retain that factory aux jack. You could use this RCA input to do that. Now the last RCA left on here is this green one. This is the rear camera input, which is what's going to connect to this guy here so we can retain the factory backup camera. Now also on this harness are these 3 wires hanging off here. You have the black ground, what says wheel key 1 and wheel key 2. These are the resistive style steering wheel control interfaces that we're going to hope to use so we don't have to add a module. Now if we do need to add a module, that's going to be what this harness was for here that says SWI, steering wheel interface. We're going to lengthen these wires out so we can attach them to the car. One more plug in the box is going to be this little 2-pin guy here. One side says mic, the other one says camera audio in. If you're doing a rear backup camera that has a audio microphone on it so that you can hear what's behind you, it is going to attach here and be controlled through the menu system on the camera page. And then of course we have the main wiring harness. Uses some of the similar colors and some of the different colors. Right off the bat you have your yellow constant 12 volts, your red accessory, and your black ground. Your speaker wires are also going to be the same in that you have the white driver's front, gray passenger front, green driver's rear, purple passenger rear. The black stripes are negative, just like on this harness here. Then we have 2 blue wires. One has a white stripe and one doesn't. The one with the white stripe is going to be our amplifier turn on for an external amplifier. The solid blue one is going to be our power antenna turn on. That is going to connect to this guy here to activate that amplifier in the factory antenna. We have the orange illumination wire that will attach to the orange illumination wire in this harness here. Then we also have the pink parking brake input and the green reverse trigger input. This will have to connect to to the factory reverse trigger so that we can turn on the factory camera, which we'll still have to go locate in the car. Let's go ahead and get this connection all made up. So what we want to do is test for the reverse wire, figure out where that is located. To do that, we'll go ahead and set our digital multimeter to volts DC, which is the line with the dots beneath it. Go ahead and throw it in reverse. Take it out. Nope, so it's not on that harness. Alright, so after testing every wire we could in the harness, none of them actually trigger reverse. So that's telling me it's probably done over data. So we'll have to go find it elsewhere in the car. So according to our notes, the reverse trigger is in the driver's kick, is this white 18-pin plug, the red wire in pin 18. So we'll go ahead and solder a wire into that and get it run up into the dash so that we can trigger the reverse camera. So let's take a look at the Volt 3.9 and how it is going to interface with this camera. As we said, this needs a 6-volt trigger. This has 4 wires that come off the end of it. A blue, a red, a black, and a white red. Now this can be used for a bunch of different things. The blue is going to be the trigger. The red can be constant and or trigger. Black is ground, of course. And then the white red is the feed wire that's going to put out the specific voltage you need to turn something on. So that is the wire we're going to connect to this red wire right here. Now this camera also needs a ground to turn on, so we'll connect the black wire for ground. So what it looks like is the grounds are all connected, and then we have this one output here that's going to go up to the radio harness. Go ahead and solder the blue wire to the red wire as a trigger to turn it on. So now we have a brand new red and a brand new black that can solder into this harness here. Now looking at the Control Pro app, it says the ground is going to go to a light blue, analog 1 is going to go to a violet, and analog 2 is going to go to yellow. Now I've gone ahead and cut off some remote turn on wire that same color so that I can solder it onto the harness and make it a little bit longer. We'll start with the blue, going to get attached to the black. Analog 1, which is violet, is going to attach to key 1, and then analog 2 will attach to key 2, which is the yellow. So our harnesses are all set. I went ahead and separated out the speakers from the power because eventually he's going to be getting a 5-channel amp, so we're going to have to go ahead and separate that later. We have our antenna connection, our backup camera, the Volt 3.9, and then we went ahead and prettied up all the other connections, taped them up, zip tied them together so that nothing is just going to be hanging out loose inside the car. Let's go ahead and get this into the car so that we can test those steering wheel controls, and then we'll come back and put that kit together. So now that we have the main unit plugged in, we need to go through the programming process. To do that, we'll hit Menu, we'll hit Settings. Up here in the top corner is a gear, and we'll type in a passcode as 15500. Okay. Then you'll see a page that says SWC Customs, and then you'll see all the functions that it's capable of doing. First one up is volume up. It says unprogrammed. Select OK and press the button. Volume down, next, back, mode, answer, end, voice. So now this should be programmed. We can go back. We're on our main tuner page. Go ahead and turn the volume up, hit track. Perfect. Now the nice thing is because it's showing that it's programmed, so that shows that it's actually read the signal, so we know that it is programmed into the system. Now let's head back over to the bench and we'll build the dash kit that's going to hold this thing in place. Inside the box you're going to find a couple parts for building this unit together. One, the master brain box right here. This is the bottom bezel mount that's going to allow these two to go together and form a double DIN. You have the bracket that mounts onto the back of the screen that's going to allow it to connect to these two bars here. here. It starts on the bottom, pushes up, and then will lock in place. You have the metal bracket that's designed to mount the two pieces together. You have a shim to tilt the radio towards the driver if needed. We've talked to this customer, he doesn't want that. And then there's the accordion boot that goes between the screen and this bezel if it's needed to hide any of this mechanism. And of course, there's also a big bag of screws. Now let's take a look at our kit. As I said at the beginning, if you needed instructions on how to get it apart, they are in the kit. Dash disassembly instructions. So depending on which model radio you have, there's two different bezels that come in the kit, as well as a pocket, a bag of screws, another bag of screws, and a left and right mounting bracket to mount the radio into the kit. So coming over and grabbing our dash bezel, definitely not the bigger one of the two, it's the smaller one of the two. So we're not gonna need this guy. The first thing we wanna do is go ahead and get our brackets mounted onto this so we can get this all lined up. Now to assemble the double DIN, you want to grab the bottom mounting bracket and the metal bracket. Then you want to go into your bag of screws and you want to find 4 screws that look like they have a washer attached to them. These little guys right here. 2 of them are going to go into the front and then 2 of them are going to go onto the top. Now there's a short version of the screw and a long version of the screw. Make sure you use the short version. Then it comes with some fine thread screws that will allow you to screw the brain box into the kit. Make sure you use those instead of the screws that the kit comes with. Once you get the top 4 screws in, go ahead and set this aside for right now and grab the screen. We want to go ahead and attach the clip bracket onto the back of the screen. The big spring will go onto the bottom. For that is another fine thread screw and they come in multiple sizes. Pick the middle one. And there are 4 of them. 2 go on the top and 2 go on the bottom. Now don't overly tighten this up because you may be sliding it up and down to do some minor adjustments. Next, go ahead and snap it into the kit, and what you want to do is figure out where this is going to look the best. It will swivel this way if you want it to face up. And there's a screw position in here that you can do once you get it on. But just kind of gauge where you need this to be. I kind of like the center position there. Now we want to push on the bottom. That will release the top. We can get our radio back off and screw it into place. And we'll go ahead and put our lock screws in for the side so that it doesn't move up and down. Now let's go ahead and grab back in our dash kit, and we want to put in the other screws that are missing from here. Now I went ahead and slid this all the way back as far as I could get it in this cage, which is by this back screw here. That seems to look really nice. Now we'll bring our dash bezel back over, set it in place. We'll do one last check to see how it looks. As you can see, it doesn't stick out that far. You get that nice big 8-inch screen in the dash. Now you really can't see much of it from the left or right side, but let's see if we can get the accordion boot on it and see if that does anything for us. Now on the accordion boot, there's a notch here, and if you fold it up where the notch is, you'll see where it says top, and that is going to match on the back of the kit where it says top also. And then this is going to snap into place around it. Now it does make it slightly easier to get on if you loosen up the mounting bracket. And the boot is designed to fill up the whole hole. It is a double DIN opening. And it actually looks pretty good. It definitely fills in everything around it. And because we have it so sunk into the dash, it's a nice look. I think we'll leave the accordion boot on. Well, at this point, we'll go ahead and take this screen back off. We'll go into the car and get everything plugged in and finish this install up. There is the 2 cables that are going to plug into the back of the screen. You want to go ahead and put those in first because they're going to have to run through the front to the screen. And then all the other little cables that we have that we're not going to be using, such as the Sirius XM, we'll get that plugged in, the steering wheel controls, the extra camera harness, and then the one we are going to be using is the Bluetooth mic. Now if you don't want to use the external microphone on this, you don't have to. It actually has a microphone built into the face of the radio. This customer requested that we do use that microphone. GPS antenna, FM antenna. USB 1 is for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. USB 2 is going to be for an external drive. This will read FAT32 as well as NTFS, so you can put a whole bunch of movies and music onto one little drive and throw it in the glove box if you'd like. Now it is a little bit shorter chassis radio than normal, which is nice because there is so many extra wiring harnesses. Like I said, make sure those 2 cables are hanging out of the dash. Grab those up out of the way. Snap your bezel back in place, make sure that it's set, plug the screen in, turn it on, and make sure that everything functions before you snap it into place. What's the weather like today?
It's currently partly cloudy and 82 degrees in Clearwater.
Now we want to go ahead and lock it back in place. Make sure to get these wires out of the way. Start at the bottom and then work your way up towards the top. Camera is working the way it's supposed to, and of course the USB is doing what it is supposed to do because we could get CarPlay to work on here. Is that it? We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed this trip putting this Elev8 in this Toyota. Stay tuned for part 3. It's gonna be a while. Be patient on that one. Part 3 is gonna be a 5-channel amp and a subwoofer behind the seat, just as a teaser to let you guys know what's coming. I'm excited. Fernando?
On to the next one, guys.
See you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.